Now, if you look at this cartoon, you see people only wearing red and yellow. Now, we all agree that Senator Mamatang is neither red or yellow. I can't possibly stick to this.
But let me shock you. Let me shock you. Before you even go on,
yes.
There is Thaddeus Osero. He's actually putting Matangi on the spot. He's saying, finally, if my director may just pick up this as well. He's saying, finally, Tangi, as you label him, ametangaza msimamo. You can see where he is.
Where is he? How is that?
Yeah. You can see where he is actually there.
Where? Is it the judge?
Why is that?
Just roll the camera so that they can actually see. This is Matangi with, I think you're in a church there with the Deputy President. Yes.
Hey, come on, Dibal.
No, it's not me. This is Thaddeus Osero.
Listen, first. Listen first. Because attend because it is on the screen.
No, okay.
Let me tell you, Dibal.
Okay.
The Deputy President was in my county on Sunday, coming to a church where I had also been invited to go and commemorate the opening of that church, a mega church. And I'm the senator for Kiambu County. Yeah, it was a big deal. I walk into a church, and then the DP is invited into the church.
Don't blow your gasket yet. You know, people are wondering you're not in the wedding. You're not here in the wedding, so they cannot see you around the wedding. So maybe this is where you are.
May the record show that Senator Matangi has denied that he has announced his stand. Yes, he was not there. But let's come back to the cartoon. So I was saying that it is telling that people are only wearing red and yellow. But the second thing about this is instructive to see that both the DPP and ESCC have been tagged in red for very curious reasons. And I think that is a matter of worry. But thirdly, I think the depiction of this as a wedding is an interesting one. Because what Governor Waititu is facing is far from a wedding. Weddings are supposed to be happy occasion. I think what the governor is facing is not a happy occasion.
But he's smiling.
So, but coming back to Senator Cheriot, the depiction of the handcuffs does not show any bias. It only shows that Governor Waititu and his wife were arrested. When you are arrested, you are handcuffed.
Okay.
Then when you are taken to court, they are removed.
Okay.
When you are convicted, you are handcuffed only when you are being escorted to jail, but you are not handcuffed in jail. So this is actually a very good depiction. But Dr. Halwale, Dr. Halwale, instead of commenting on the cartoon, takes the occasion to mourn his loss in Kakamega. Starts by attacking his governor and telling us things which, if he had evidence of, he should have reported to Kakamega police station. Now he should be lamenting that the police have not acted on his report. So let's not use this occasion to advance our own personal fortunes or misfortunes. But let me talk about the most serious aspect of this cartoon. There are two issues that arise which I think beg serious discussion. One is the increasing trend that you are taken to court. No, let me start with the preliminary one. The running away of Governor Waititu, his wife, and others. You know, they were fugitives at law. And I think for about 2 days they were being sought. I jokingly asked Dr. Alwale whether he was the one, keeping them. He assured me he wasn't. It is suggested that they were in some high, home somewhere. I think Kenyans must know that the way we demand that the police must treat you with decorum when they want to arrest you or charge you, and there is no reason to be ill-treated when you are being arrested or charged, you should be told, this is the evidence, come to court. Is the same way, once you're invited by the police or the ESCC, you should not run away. Because if you run away, then it gives police justification to ambush you and to ambush other Kenyans who might not want to run away. But secondly, it becomes a factor in considering your bail terms. And I don't want to say much more because I think the ruling on bail will come. But the second issue about it is the trend that has now taken root. That once you're arrested, you're taken to court, people apply for bail. It's almost accepted now that the magistrate will not give a ruling on bail immediately. That you'll be remanded for a day or 2 or 3, sometimes even 1 week. Quite honestly, that is not acceptable.
It's not acceptable.
Because under Article 49 of the Constitution and under Article 50, we actually reduced the period with which the police can take with you. before they bring you to court. Because the supposition is that once you come to court, you have come to the citadel of justice. If you are going to be granted bail, let it be granted there and then, because the considerations are clear. If you are going to be denied bail, let it be denied there and then. Then you can go to the higher court, and the higher court can either grant it or refuse it. The idea of keeping you for days pending ruling on bail is a form of unlawful detention.
Yes.
You can't even appeal. You can't question it. So you are there awaiting bail. That is wrong. We reduced the period of the police could hold you from 48 hours to 24 hours for that reason. The third point that bears comment is something that has taken a root, I think following Justice Mumbi Ngugi's observation.
Yes.
Some people have thought that she made a declaration that whenever a governor is charged, then you must leave office. It is not, because that was not the issue before her. The issue before her was a specific governor in respect of whom orders had been made that while his trial is going on, he should not access his office. So he appealed. In respect of that governor, she upheld the decision of the magistrate that he should not access his office. She made observations which in law we call obiter dicta, that there is no reason why governors and other elected representatives should be exempt from the requirement of Section 62 of the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Act. And that is, she said that in her view, everyone who's charged should step aside, which more or less is reasonable, except one thing. There's a technical challenge, which is what every court that is faced with that kind of decision will have to address. And I think which the High Court must now address as an exclusive constitutional interpretation matter in Article 182. Can I explain it?
Please. Yes.
Under Article 182, it defines the instances when a vacancy arises in the office of governor. And that vacancy includes death, like now in the case of Bomet. It includes resignation. It includes when you are removed and other things. And under Article 182.2, it then specifies that the deputy governor, if that vacancy arises, will take over. The problem is, or it also includes when you have been convicted of an offense.
More than 12 months.
Of more than 12 months. So, technically, if you are a governor and you are charged and you have not been convicted, even if you are barred from accessing your office, there is no vacancy in that office.
Yeah.
And it means that your deputy cannot assume your duties. What that therefore means is that the very good idea that any official charged with an offense should step aside is one that needs proper consideration in the context of governance and functions of that county. Because if you are barred from office, and you can be barred from case to case, we can discuss that. Technically, your deputy cannot take over because there's no vacancy. So technically, even the speaker cannot assume that position. So you then have a county where there's no vacancy, the deputy cannot take over, the speaker cannot take over, but the county must function. So what happens? The point I'm making is, in the broader context of discussing amendments to the Constitution that we must have and we must not have, we must therefore address the question of all officials. For the appointive officials, it is clear under Section 62 of the ASECA Act. For the elected officials, it's a bit more complex. It's the same thing when it comes to members of parliament and senators. If you're barred from office, which office are you barred from? Does that mean parliament? Is it your constituency office? And what happens to the representation? So I agree with the principle. The point I'm making is that it's not as simple as that. It is
So it's a bit convoluted because essentially what you're saying is you will be paralyzing the whole functioning of a county.
Yeah.
There is no such a thing.
There is no such a thing.
There is no such a thing. Otiende is just dreaming.
Otende is misleading us.
It's misleading everybody.
It's
There is no
misleading
such
the
a
nation.
thing.
No, it's okay.
It
Let's
is
use the
very clear.
Constitution.
Yeah.
What is simple and clear
Yeah.
is that in the absence of the governor, it doesn't matter for what reason. He might even have traveled to Rwanda. the person then who comes in the office and discharges the deputy
That's
governor.
why the DP is the deputy.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But essentially,
yeah.
no,
I'm sure
just a moment.
But that does not take away what Otiende was saying.
I think matter of semantics also are very, very critical here.
Yeah.
You say in the absence. Here it's if a vacancy.
Yes.
If a vacancy occurs in the office of a county governor,
Dibal.
the deputy governor shall assume office as county governor for the remainder of the term of the county governor.
Dibal, what my brother is speaking to is not for purposes of this panel or the public.
So in
That
court,
is a
this is
discourse
court
at the
matters.
University of Nairobi when they are discussing the constitution and whatnot. They go into real things and theoretical things. It is normally allowed. But for purposes of exercising this constitution, anytime and all the time that a governor is not there, the deputy governor
But
acts.
don't you think if there's no
Question.
clarity on this, then
No,
this
no,
will be a spawning
but
ground
Dibal,
for legal challenges
Allow
ahead?
me to say what I wanted
Yeah?
to say.
Okay,
Allow
after
me to
him.
say
Okay.
just-
Okay,
Jacob.
after him.
Dibal, during the case, the Hague cases,
Yes.
Uhuru Kenyatta thought it wise, which set a precedent that he was going to the Hague to attend to his case, criminal case.
Yes.
He then went to OP and handed over power to William Ruto.
Yes.
The same circumstances as for the deputy governor and the governor
They
applying
apply.
for president and his deputy. The president was said,
Professor
Dibal,
Lodge.
you cannot dwell in semantics when public funds are plundered. I said on this show, when Ojamong was charged, that his assumption, his reassumption of the office will not let the cases go on. His cases were supposed to start about a month ago. They are not on, they just come to Nairobi. They are out there and they're using public resources. It is not right that a governor charged for plundering public funds of Busia people has been sitting in office for over a year. And the witnesses are in the same office with him. Something must be greater than the other one. It cannot be just mere semantics of the law. In this country, there is nothing lacking. Uhuru Kenyatta has already set a precedent. And William Ruto at that point was not sitting in his office, he was sitting in OP. So
I think
yeah,
Dibal,
so-
But you see,
Dibal
Aaron,
also-
the irony of that move at that particular time, much as I support it, is that the same William Ruto was still facing the same charges. Therefore, it just gives you the kind of complex. How do you deal, for example, on this one I'm squarely with Otiende, how do you deal with Article 182D that specifically speaks to instances where vacancy arises in the office of a governor? That if a governor is convicted
Of an offense.
of an offense punishable by imprisonment for at least 12 months. So it tells you that even it envisions even a situation where a governor is convicted, say, for 6 months into civil jail, he still doesn't lose that particular seat. That is a direct interpretation of what 182D is talking about. And there is good basis for this, Jacoyo. You know, you must also understand the history and the context why some of these constitutional provisions were there. There's a history to us as a people. How, as Kenya, we came into putting certain provisions into our constitution. And when I see them being violated, I cannot keep quiet about it. Because even this provision for charging or producing someone in court within 24 hours, you know, it was somebody once recently told me when I was appeared in a show somewhere, that what people should know, even these people like Jacoyo, is that it was the late Nicholas Biwott who moved an amendment to the penal code back then in parliament that allowed for the state to detain you without trial for 14 days. A few years down the line, the same law was used to charge him when he faced the Ouko issue. Look at the kind of challenges we are having. The discussion that we keep on having on this panel about the independence of one EACC and DPP, DCI, and how as a country, at least everybody can point to an instance where they say there's a little bit of political interference. So until such a time as we are able to sort out this issue of political interference, it is important that we respect our constitutional provisions. Take an issue of Garissa County, for example. And there's something so absurd about it that I don't know if Jacoy, you have noticed about it, that in Garissa County, the deep office of EACC is investigating the county government. Then, in return, DPP last week on Friday wrote a letter saying, asking DCI to investigate all the 6 members of parliament from that constituency and how they are using CDF allocation. So DPP on this side, the members of parliament have confidence in EACC. They have taken the county government. The county government has used the office of DPP to, you know, all
So
that
convoluted.
convolution. It tells you about political
explained,
interference in our institutions.
Right.
Yeah.
And until such a time that we are able to be clear that these offices are operating independently,
Thank you.
it is important we observe certain provisions.
Okay, Kimani Motangi, before we come to Otiende Amollo.
Yes, Dibal, maybe 3 quick comments.
No,
First,
let's take 2.
well, I said 3 and I said quick.
So that's the first one.
Dibal, anyway, I wanted to say in the Senate, we have really, and I think that time we were with Boni Halwale in the Senate, we really try to deal with how do we finally firm up what the role, functions, and powers of a deputy governor are. And this is when we were facing a crisis in Machakos County, when the deputy governor there was claiming that indeed the governor was sending his people, withdrawing his official vehicle, locking his office, and so on. So we're asking, in the Constitution, what is the place of the deputy governor vis-a-vis the powers of the governor? But one of the areas that is very contradictory, if you like, is the provision in the Constitution that says that a deputy governor shall carry out his duties as assigned by the governor. And you know, once you have that provision, then it becomes very murky. Because you are saying that if he's not assigned duties, then he cannot carry them out.
True.
Now, the other bit is this, that remember we've dealt with quite a few cases of impeachment in the Senate. And then this discussion came up. So why do we have this process of impeachment for removal of office of somebody who has been given the mandate directly by the people? And then other than how does the court deal with it? And remember, when the matter of Governor Wambora, after impeachment, went to the courts, it was very, very tricky, because the courts were very hesitant to deal with it, because they were saying this provided for a mechanism to punish an errant person who has derived their power from the electorate. So I think in the course of, in the course of amending our constitution, these are some of the things that we need to look at, such that we can have a clear demarcation and differentiation, such that when you're having probably a process of impeachment and the provisions for removal of office, they are completely and clearly distinct from when somebody is facing criminal charges, for example, in corruption and so on, such that the mix between the two does not get abused. Because in my view, the provision and presumption that this is how you remove, for example, a governor from office, or a deputy president, or a president, because those are provided for. And one of the sections in one of our statutes, which one is this, on the one that provides for the removal, and then this what has been used and claimed that members of parliament, governors are using to defeat the obiter dicta suggestions, as Otiende Amollo said, by Dr. Mumbi Ngugi. It is simple that if somebody has come through the process of the election, then that person has been provided for, remove them from office, either a member of the National Assembly moves. In the case of the president, there's a motion, it is brought to the Senate, it is voted for, goes to the county assemblies, back to the Senate, and then you have a removal. How about asking when, for example, an officer is charged with stealing, is he taken directly to the court and charged as a common criminal? Because it is not a political process at that time. And I think if we have those distinctions, then we can have a neater process.
Thank you.
Let me explain this.
Yeah. Also, as we are preparing our headline thoughts, we struck for time. Thank you.
This is very important. And Jacoy and Halwale, I would gladly accept your advice on generally political matters, but on legal matters, be very slow to contradict me. Let me explain two things. And you see, when I use the Constitution and you want to contradict me, then use it.
Yeah.
Don't put it down and make general statements that might appear populist but unfounded. Let me explain. There are two distinctions. There's a distinction when the deputy governor substantively becomes the acting governor, and when the deputy governor is deputized for the governor. Substantively is under Article 182. When he's deputized, that's under Article 180. So the examples you give, like with the deputy president and all, that is when the president deputized him. And right now, any governor can deputize his deputy to do anything, including act. But that's not what we were talking about. We were talking about where the governor has not deputized his deputy. He has been substantively barred, and his deputy is now acting substantively as the governor. So the question is, can that happen under these circumstances? Now, if you want to understand this, there are two things to know. That any governor who then acts as a governor under Article 182 when there's a vacancy doesn't just come and act and go. Under Sub-Article 6, you will see that a person who assumes the office of county governor will continue, unless otherwise removed from this constitution, until the newly elected county governor assumes office. If you assume it under Article 182, even if the governor is acquitted tomorrow, he cannot come back. You will continue until the new election. So these are not light matters.
Thank you.
Let us hold on. Hold your horses.
You invited me.
Hold your horses. Wait.
But we're winding up, by the way.
To make here is this, and this is the important point I was making, that it is a good idea what was generated by Justice Mumbi Ngugi, but it is not a simplistic idea. What I said is, it is a conversation we need to have in the context of the amendment to the Constitution. It is a conversation that the court must have, that if you bar the governor, you must then go ahead and indicate what happens, because there is a danger of the county being crippled. Lastly, that is the same difficulty we face in Parliament. Halwale and Jakoyo are in Parliament, and you know that when you are there, many of the colleagues were facing charges as they are now. We must ask the question, a member of Parliament who's charged, including with corruption, how do we deal with this member of Parliament? That has not been answered to date. There are many colleagues who are charged, they are going on. Even some of you may have been in similar situations. We must address these things not simplistically, but properly, and it is not academic. Lastly, because now we're winding up, my closing comments. My closing comments. I think that DPP and DCI have done very well, and for me, the fact that they are going for people who thought they were untouchable is a good thing. What they must fight to do is to not have this tag of losing their independence and overreaching, like delivering gold to Tanzania and all. The DPP must focus on prosecuting the big.
Thank you. Right, Boni Halwale, briefly. We are
Jakoyo Mediwo is just pleading for the hygiene of running the office when a man is facing criminal charges. He's saying if you allow him to come back, he's going to block the investigations or interfere with them. And he is using, my brother, I invite you to look at Article 181 of the Constitution,
Read it.
Part 2, which says that Parliament where you sit.
Read it.
You open it and read. I've invited you.
Briefly.
181.
Read it.
Yeah.
Which part?
181. Okay.
Yes.
Go to 2.
Yes.
Which asks you as parliamentarians to then speak to what Honorable Jakoyo has said, that you need to provide legislation on how a governor who has been charged in court.
There is no such thing in
Thank you.
Article
Let's leave it at that.
There is no such thing.
Okay.
But you have
Boni Halwale.
Nothing under charge in court.
Thank you.
Let's say this is it.
Thank you. We're winding up.
No, he's misleading people.
Just
simply because
let's give it to Aaron Chiro to wind up your closing remarks. Boni, this is a developing story. Of course, we shall see the ruling of a court. Then we can discuss if actually he will be in office or not, and who will actually take over. Aaron Chiro.
Just shocked this week that after EACC recovered our public property in Kisumu, Dr. Oburu Odinga took to the public to mourn and say he's a small fish. Now, if Oburu Odinga is a small fish, I don't know what ordinary folks like Otiende will refer themselves as.
Maybe the cousin will tell us. Jacobi Dewo.
Are you calling me a man?
The senator must be fair to me. You know my views. Theft is theft.
Yeah.
Nobody is above the law.
Yeah.
We deal with it, we get to the other side of it.
Thank you.
And that's all I want to say. But I want just so that we are not misunderstood, that a judge of the caliber of Mumbi would not be thinking.
Thank you.
To the extent that she would want somebody accused of theft.
All right,
to keep
Wamatangi
going
finally.
with it.
Yes, the ball, finally.
Finally. All right.
Anyway.
My director is on my case.
On the issues that were being raised by most of us, and especially on the substantive assumption of office, I would want to urge my colleagues also to take a look at the assumption of office of county governor, which was
Enacted by the president.
which is enacted by the and that is my bill.
Your bill.
Which addresses those different scenarios. But then lastly, I think the main separation that we need to see going forward is how economic crimes are dealt with, even when they are committed by political office holders, other than or separate from sins of political nature.
Thank you. Thank you.
That distinction needs to be there.
Right. All right. We're overrunning. But Angaya, as we are saying here, Dibal says, I recently met a chap who works overseas. He says he had resigned from a government job when he realized that cancer had cure but was being intentionally managed. This is the question that led to his fallout with the government. Why manage when we can cure? And I think that was the question that we were raising. And we had Catherine. I think the frustrations with live streaming has been a challenge also. That will be sorted out. A lot of your tweets, I can't read them out because we are strapped for time. Thank you for your valued company.